Hi guys, this is Dave back with another CVS related video, and today I wanted to talk about something that I see comments and posts on every single day on the support groups, and that is CHS, Cannabis Hyperemesis Syndrome. The other day I was following a thread on one of the support groups where people were essentially arguing over whether or not Cannabis Hyperemesis Syndrome is a real condition or not. What we are encountering as CVSers is that more and more often, if we are admitted to an emergency room or we have to deal with a doctor, if a doctor pulls a drug screen on us and sees THC or cannabis in our systems, oftentimes the cannabis is what gets blamed for cyclic vomiting, okay? And I think that in probably 95 or more % of these cases, the cannabis is not the problem, okay? First of all, let's define cannabis hyperemesis syndromes, okay? Syndrome. This condition is very, very, very similar to cyclic vomiting syndrome, okay? But these are people that are using cannabis heavily, 3 to 5 times a day or more, and the median number of years that someone with CHS has been using cannabis is about 15 to 16 years. So we're talking heavy, long-term, multiple times daily use of cannabis. This is not something that happens to the casual cannabis user, the person that uses, a couple times a month or even a couple times a week or even maybe once daily, okay? This is heavy, continuous use, okay? So right there, that should eliminate many of us from being put into the CHS box. My personal story, when I had my first episode of CVS, which showed up out of nowhere, I had no forewarning that this was coming. I had a job working for the government at that time, and I had at least 2 to 3 years where I had not touched cannabis at all, okay? I used cannabis as in my younger years, but when my CVS showed up, I hadn't touched cannabis in 2 to 3 years. And so right there, that should pretty well be proof, if we're using our rational minds here, that cannabis is not the cause of my CVS. My CVS has been in remission for over 2 years now, thanks to the magic cocktail, amitriptyline, CoQ10, and L-carnitine. In addition to those, I do use cannabis on an almost daily basis, usually in the evenings as a way to kind of slow my mind down and relax at the end of the day. I have one of those minds that just goes, and sometimes it's hard to quiet that. So cannabis is helpful for me for quieting my mind and allowing myself to drift off to sleep without having to use a prescription sleep medication. So on a daily basis, okay, I see and I talk to people on these support groups who are refused treatment in the emergency room because a doctor pulls a urine screen on them and finds THC in their system. Okay, this to me is beyond criminal. If I came into the emergency room with a broken leg, with my bones sticking out of my leg, blood everywhere, and I was refused to be treated just because I maybe had a history of opiate abuse, does that make sense? Don't we need to take care of the person's immediate problem first? Take care of the pain, abort the episode first, right? And then deal with maybe what the underlying causes are, okay? So that's number one. It is beyond criminal to me, the way that most of us are treated in these emergency rooms. Doctors, ask questions of your patients, okay? If the one time I went into the emergency room and was treated like crap, if that doctor would have taken the time to ask me or ask my wife or my mother, who was also there with me, about my symptoms, they would have immediately known that just because I had a positive THC screen, they would have immediately known that, well, that's not necessarily the cause of my CVS, okay? Most of us can tell you exactly why cannabis is not a contributing factor, okay? Cannabis takes roughly 2 to 3 months, sometimes less, to get out of a person's system, okay? So many of us who honestly thought that maybe cannabis could be a cause for our symptoms, many of us, probably most of us, have omitted cannabis from our lives for at least 3 months just to rule it out, okay? And if the doctors in the emergency rooms and the specialists would simply ask us, okay, they would know this. Or it would be a situation like myself where I hadn't touched cannabis for years when my cyclic vomiting showed up, continued not to touch it for years while my symptoms repeatedly happened. I kept having episodes over and over. And my favorite one is for those of you whose CVS showed up when you were a child, 3, 4, 5 years old. And you doctors are going to sit there and tell these people that cannabis is causing their symptoms? Come on, guys, let's get real here, okay? Cannabis is one of the few things that actually provides relief for many of us, okay? If it were as easy as stopping cannabis could end all of these episodes for us, damn it, we would all do it in a heartbeat, okay? None of this is fun for us, okay? We lose jobs, we lose family members, we lose friends, okay, because of this condition. If it were as simple as using or not using cannabis, we would all have done it by now, and we would all have CVS in our rear view mirror, okay? So doctors, ask for documentation, okay? Many of us are prepared for what we are going to hear when we go into the emergency room. Many of us have specialists or PCPs who have a specific protocol of medications that you can give us when we are in the emergency room that will abort our symptoms. In my case, the doctor I encountered in the emergency room completely ignored me, didn't even contact my doctor, okay? And again, that to me is criminal because we are suffering here, okay? A pro tip for my fellow CVSers: if you are in the emergency room and you are being treated like shit, and you are being treated as a drug seeker or a person who is somehow addicted to cannabis, and that this is the cause of all of your issues, one thing that we do have the right to do as patients is ask for a patient advocate, okay? So if you are not getting the treatment you think you deserve, ask for a patient advocate. I'm not saying that it's going to work every time, but this is at least one method that we have at our disposal as patients. We have rights, okay? And to me, when I'm getting on these CVS support groups every day and hearing stories of people that are just repeatedly being treated like criminals when cannabis or THC shows up on their drug screen, this to me is unacceptable. Doctors, do your job, okay? If we have abstained for 3 months or more and our symptoms continue to persist, it's not CHS, it's not the cannabis. If we have had CVS since we were 3, 4, 5-year-old children, then guess what? It's not the cannabis, okay? This makes me endlessly mad because I see it every single day, okay? Those of you who are dealing with CVS, share this video with your doctors. Make your doctors do the work. If there's one thing that I have learned from my experience of dealing with CVS for the better part of a decade, it's that guess what? We have to fight for ourselves. We can't rely on doctors to fight for us. My doctor had no idea what CVS was. I was the one that had to do the research, print out the paperwork, and bring it in to my doctor. At which point, she read the paperwork, and luckily, she agreed with me that this was what I was dealing with. And since then, it's been a great experience with my personal doctor. But for many others are not as lucky as I have been in this situation, okay? So, it's very easy to rule out cannabis, okay? But for doctors just to use that as a first resort, it looks very bad. It makes us think that possibly our doctors are being influenced by their friends in Big Pharma who want absolutely not for cannabis to be legalized and used as a medicine because it is literally the most medicinal plant on the planet, okay? We have been lied to about this plant all of our lives. Some of us are realizing this now, and we are taking matters into our own hands. I had to take matters into my own hands to finally defeat the CVS monster. And so do you. If you're watching this and you have CVS or you have a family member with CVS, you have to do the research, you have to gather the facts, and you have to hope that when you gather these facts, you can find a physician or an ER doctor who is willing to listen to you. If this doctor or these doctors are not willing to listen to you, do everything you can. Find another doctor. There are good doctors out there who aren't all in the pockets of Big Pharma, who aren't all against cannabis, the most medicinal plant on the planet, okay? So, with that, good luck to all of you out there. This was a heated video for me. As you can see, I'm a little bit passionate about this subject. So please share far and wide, like the video, leave comments, whatever you want to do, okay, guys? But we have to take matters into our own hands, okay? Peace.